Back again with another review for the Sandman. Thanks for checking out the channel. My name is Josh, and we are on episode number 5. I believe this one was called 24/7, and this was very much so focused on John, the son of the thief that stole all the tools from Morpheus. And this episode just took a lot of twists and turns and definitely kept me guessing to try and figure out what exactly was going on. And it turned out what this show is really good at, I think, thus far, is completely subverting my expectations as far as what I think is going to happen and in how it's going to happen. Like in this case, I definitely thought that John was, going to be in possession of the ruby for probably most of the season, and that was going to be Morpheus's fight to get that back. And that's definitely not the case so far, so to speak. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to stop guessing about what's coming up next because that just isn't really going well for me, which is a good thing because I don't really have any idea what's happening. But so I thought that it was going to be more of a struggle with John to get back the ruby, kind of like I thought most of the season was going to be a struggle to get back all of his tools or all of his equipment. And that's not necessarily the case. We just finished episode 5, and now I believe he's got them all back, or in essence of that, so to speak. So yeah, I mean, what we're going to do is I'm definitely going to talk the rest of this review end all be all. I thought it was a really good episode. It was way different than some of the other episodes, but it was also one where I finally got to see some of Dream's actual power on a large scale, and it was even if it wasn't being used by him, so to speak. So very good episode. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Can't wait to see what's happening next. But what we're going to talk about next is just a little more in depth on the episode itself, and kind of there'll probably be some spoilers in that just because of the nature of what's happening in the show at this point. So like I said previously, this whole episode for the most part takes place in a diner, hence the 24/7, like one of the all you can eat, not all you can eat, all you can eat. One of the 24 hours, 7 days a week, so open all the time diners, and standard typical diner that could be pretty much anywhere. And you start to get introduced to cast of characters that are in the diner, seemingly for the most part good people. You get a little about their lives just from being there. And this is where this episode, again, it's so different than all the other episodes, where this one is confined to one location, basically one large room, kind of broken up with like the kitchen. So one location, the diner, and you're starting to see what John can do with the ruby, and also kind of what he means by creating a new world, which was his plan for this, is to create a new world without lies, and what does it actually look like. And through some twists and turns, and him being, again, this is where I come back to, I don't think, and I think kind of Morpheus kind of comes to the same conclusion at the end, like, I don't think he's a bad guy. Like, the things he's doing seem to be for the best intent of creating a world full of lies, or free of lies. We already have a world full of lies, but that's the goal for him. And it just kind of goes to show you in a microcosm, as you think it in this diner, is just like, okay, well, this is an experiment of what it's going to be like when all of a sudden you just inhibit people from telling like any lies, like any little lies. So like a pleasantry. So somebody asks you, how do I look today? Oh, you look good. And you're like, oh no, you look pretty tired today. Or, how are you today? Well, I feel pretty crappy. I didn't get to eat much last night. I didn't sleep much. You're just divulging much more information. So it's not only you can't tell lies, but it's more like the inhibitor is off, like everything like that. You don't have tact, you don't have any of that stuff, so you just blurt out the truth, which I guess is that is a version of just a world without lies. And what that turns into in the diner turns into just a cluster bang of everything and everybody kind of banging each other in various methods and techniques. And you get a lot of weird things that come out of there just with the stories and the honesty. And I guess it's supposed to be society in a small eggshell, and if it is, there's really no arguing that we already are, a world full of lies, and probably headed to one large explosion at some point or another. But this really exacerbated things. So when you take away all of the lies, like John did, basically people, even with the best interest, just implode and destroy everything. And that's what this episode was about. But then it turns out it wasn't just the diner. Like when he was doing this to everyone around him, it was everyone in the world. So you can start to hear it on the news in the background as everything is unfolding in the diner, that the world has basically gone crazy and there's acts of aggression everywhere and rioters and all these different types of things. And basically, I guess it's kind of more of just acting on your impulses and maybe even not logically thinking things through, but just being very truthful in the moment and what that causes. And it causes a lot of screw ups and a lot of violence, and very violent and awkward cutting of things off, and the, you know, if you've seen the episode, I don't like eye things, and there were some of those in this one. You got the Fates back in there. They were back there answering some questions for John about what his future was going to be. And it did come to fruition, just not exactly how he thought it would. So, end all be all, you had everything kind of happen and come to a T whilst Dream, Morpheus himself, had been knocked out this entire time from whatever sort of a booby trap or something happened with the ruby that just completely knocked him out. But I think it also absorbed some of his power, he said later on, because he does show up at the diner and they have a little standoff as far as, conversing about what's happening, and then it's kind of, John says, well, what if I take all of your power into the ruby and then henceforth into himself? And then Dream takes him to the dream realm so that he could do that one. He kind of messes with him a bit about nightmares of his mother and I'm guessing it's his mother, and maybe memories mixed with what he thought his mother was doing or did do. I don't know. Perpetually belittling him and just tearing him down throughout his life. But he comes out of that because he realizes the dream, and then he just basically starts to absorb Dream into the talismans, and then it explodes and crumbles, and all of a sudden it's just, blank white, great, looks, ethereal plane, and John is in the hand of Dream, and it comes to pass that actually by him doing what he did, he released all of Dream's power that he put into this, because apparently that was all him, which is kind of a cool thing. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Thor in a certain way, where, it's like he had his hammer destroyed and he thought that was the end of his powers. And it's like, that's more of a focus of your powers in a slightly different way. That was a lot of his powers, but then it was released all from the amulet of the ruby, and then I'm assuming just reabsorbed by Morpheus. So things are kind of set back to normal as we get to the end of this episode. He does show mercy on John, which I can understand completely when you look at what's happened. And even as I said earlier in the reviews, that it doesn't really seem like he's a bad guy, except the fact whenever he gets the ruby, people tend to die around him. And then this whole diner, and then I guess kind of in a bigger plane of existence, the world, is an example of that. I mean, he said they were bad people that kind of did it to themselves, and they all did do those things to themselves based off of their lives, but it's just, not as cut and dry simple as that. And so he's definitely guilty of some things, but I think the intent for him was always pretty genuine, and Morpheus seemed to think that as well, but also realize that, he came into possession of the ruby because by no fault of his own. It was stolen by his father and then given to him, or he acquired it from his mother, and again, it wasn't really his fault. Didn't know what he was doing, and apparently, the ruby itself, or the talisman, it just corrupts people, which makes sense. That much power, it wasn't meant for mortals. So that's kind of where the episode ends. Kind of there, you got John not dead. I don't remember where they actually left him, just sleeping, and Dream is talking to Matthew, and he says he can't rebuild everything, but he definitely can. Or he can't take away what's happened, but he can help rebuild as best he can, and everybody's going to have a good night's sleep, and it's probably the first night humanity has a good night of sleep in 100 years since he's been out of incarceration with all of his tools. And then he's walking away, we see a little glimpse of, I don't know who, I'm guessing it's one of his siblings. They did say that, because they said, "I'm watching you, big brother." Don't know who it is, but I'm assuming that's going to be coming up pretty quickly. So yeah, overall, the episode, it flew by in the fact that it did go by very quickly, because I almost thought it was over when they were kind of dealing with and wrapping up the diner scene. And I was like, man, if they just kind of leave this on the edge, I'm going to be kind of upset, because I didn't know how long it happened. Had it been like 30 minutes? Had it been 55 minutes? I don't know, because it was very engaging conversations and dialogues in there. in very awkward and uncomfortable ways, but it was good stuff. Very different than, again, the other episodes that have been up, but that's something that the show has done consistently, is just kind of changed the tone of a lot of the different episodes, and this was no difference, and it was really kind of cool. But then, again, I forgot I was I was watching the Sandman show until bingo bango, it kind of comes back around, and you're like, oh, there's Morpheus. And then he kind of comes in, and you're like, okay, I'm back in this story again about him seeking this out and what he plans to do. And did things wrap up with John? I don't know yet. We'll have to see. But NWL, I enjoyed that one thoroughly. Again, all of the episodes have been getting better in different kind of ways. Again, not as much action in this one. I mean, there's action in kind of weird, violent, self-deprecating ways, but just completely different, and I really like that. So we'll have to see where the next episode goes. I think we're about halfway through this season, so I'm enjoying it thoroughly. Let me guys know what you think. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Don't forget, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll be back pretty quick with the next episode. So excited.